passion and pageantry of college football lives here. This is the Paul Feinbaum Show, Hour 3 podcast.
This might be college football heaven.
Well, it took us 2 hours to finally get to something that matters on the football field, other than TROs and legal maneuvering. Adam Rittenberg joining us now to talk about this ranking. Who are the top 100 players? Let's give you a little bit of a clue. It starts with Jeremiah Smith. That is not an upset, by the way. Leonard Moore, a lot of conversations about the quarterback, but how about the cornerback? Notre Dame having 2 of the top 10. That isn't bad. Maybe one reason why so many people like them. How about Tony from Miami? Here's a lot of Texas players are starting to show up. Arch, Cam, Gooseby, Dylan Stewart. Let's talk to Adam about how you come up with a list like this. Adam, good afternoon. So this is not easy. I mean, some of it is, I guess, but take us through the mindset. How did you do it?
Well, it wasn't just me. It was a panel of us from ESPN.com. We get together every year and go through names and tell each other what we're hearing and ultimately sort out this list. And it's obviously a quarterback-heavy list. We've got about 20 quarterbacks on there, but as you can see, the top 4 players were not quarterbacks. And so you have some real talent at receiver, an edge rusher like Colin Simmons, a cornerback like Leonard Moore. So they're again, it's just a part. Most of it is what you've done in the past, but some of it is projection and looking out to what's possible this season. What do you do with Arch Manning, who really struggled for the first half of last year, but came on strong and might end up in the top 5 and the top 10 going into the postseason version of this. So a lot of it is what you've done in the past. Some of it is projection and looking ahead.
I mean, and everybody has somebody who didn't make it, who wasn't ranked high. In terms of the complaints, and I'm sure you've heard from a few, where do they land?
Yeah, I think there's some really productive players who didn't make the list. I mean, one guy who I thought, I debated maybe should have made it was Antoine Raymond of Rutgers, a running back who's the Big Ten's leading returning rusher. He's not in the top 100. Marcel Reed, there's some real complaints, I'm sure, out of Aggie land about how we viewed him. But, you can't get everybody in there. We wanted to be fair to all different positions, all different backgrounds. There aren't a lot of group of 6 players on there, but we wanted to have a few who we felt were deserving of that. And again, looking at last year's preseason top 100 and the postseason top 100, there were a number of players that weren't in the top 100 going into the year that were coming out of the year. So that's just how it goes. There's surprises in this sport. It's one of the reasons we all love it. But again, this was based heavily on, again, what they did last year and just things that we've heard about these players in talking to coaches and personnel folks around the country.
Adam, you just can't look at this, although I did today when I read it. I go, man, that team's going to be really good. They got 3 of the top whatever. But you can start to pick up some certain things about where the cluster of players are and maybe who isn't in there. In terms of things that really stood out, I mean, we mentioned Texas. Indiana has a bunch of players. Ohio State has a bunch of players. How do you process all that and start to think, okay, this team is going to be way up there?
Well, I think about the teams, Paul, that are all in for this year, and there's 3 of them that really jump out to me. I think Texas is at the very top of the list. Like, if it feels like an if not now, when type season for Steve Sarkisian and the Longhorns to win a national championship. And look at the number of players that they have in the top 10, in the top 30, in the top 50. Oregon is another team, brings back a lot from last year. We probably didn't even have all their outstanding defensive players that were in this ranking. Dante Moore, maybe a little lower than people thought, outside the top 10, but still one of the top quarterbacks in college football. And Notre Dame is the other one. Notre Dame, in my view, has not won a national championship for 38 years, largely because they haven't had a quarterback who's been good enough to win a national championship. Everything that we've heard and seen and talked to about C.J. Carr suggests he's that type of guy. And then you have Leonard Moore. You have very good lines of scrimmage. You have a running game that should still be solid despite losing 2 first-round draft picks. Those 3 teams, to me, Paul, Georgia, you might want to throw in there as well. Ohio State, they feel like they have enough people in this list to justify winning a national championship.
Let me ask you about another popular national championship pick. and that is Oregon. What can you glean from going through all these names and power ratings?
Well, right. So you have Dante Moore coming back, a guy that could have easily been in an NFL training camp right now as a top 5, top 3 type pick. He's back again after obviously the poor finish against Indiana. You return your entire starting defensive line, a guy like Amari Washington, who we're very high on in these rankings. Brandon Finney Jr., cornerback, who played as a freshman last year. I think he could be one of the top young defensive backs in the country. They bring in Coy Parrish from Minnesota, who was an all Big Ten safety, much like Dylan Thieneman, who went to Oregon and then became a first-round draft pick. And so there really are, you get Evan Stewart back from injury at wide receiver to pair with DeCorian Moore, and that group, if it can stay healthy, should be better than it was last year. So really not a lot of holes for this Oregon team. To me, Paul, it almost doesn't matter what they do in the regular season. They're going to be judged by how they perform in the playoff because of how badly they've lost those last 2 playoff games. And maybe that's an unfair way to look at it, but that's the standard I think Dan Lanning and these players are looking at for this season. It feels like national championship or bust for them.
Georgia is in better shape from a lot of standpoints, but they also have that late December, early January problem the last 2 years in the Sugar Bowl. And some of that is attrition, and you can't predict that, but what do you see on that roster?
Very solid team, Paul. Not a lot of weaknesses. Speaking to someone inside that program recently about the talent that they have coming back on the defensive side of the ball. They're always strong on the offensive line. I think they've been very pleased with Gunnar Stockton, another year under his belt. Can they be more dynamic in the passing game and ultimately at the quarterback position to maybe win some of those games in the playoff? That's what it might come down to for a Georgia team that has a ton of future NFL guys, especially in the secondary, at linebacker, and offensive line is always a big pro producer for Georgia.
Finally, a school that we're accustomed to seeing all over that list, and there were some names, especially on the defensive side early on, but what do you learn when you look at that Alabama roster?
Well, there's still a lot of talent there, and I think that they believe they're going to be a better defense than they were last year, and they were pretty good. I mean, they're top 20 in a lot of the key categories. To me, it's very simple. Can they run the ball and support Keelan Russell, who's now going to be their starter? Not a huge surprise, big-time recruit. I think he's the type of quarterback that fits what Kalen DeBoer and Ryan Grubb want to do offensively. But as we saw in the playoff, if you can't control the line of scrimmage and you can't run the ball consistently, you're going to be making an exit, and a painful one, like they had against Indiana in the Rose Bowl. So that, to me, is not the only group that matters, but that's where my eyes are going first. How is that offensive line looking with Adrian Clem now overseeing the group, and can they run the ball to support a first-year starting quarterback?
Finally, we're not asking you about what is going to happen in a courtroom in Baton Rouge. What about on the playing field with that roster?
It's an incredibly talented roster. Whether or not those NFL guys end up suiting up for LSU, the investment that they had, they made in the offseason, the guys they brought in from the portal, the guys they still have on this team, it's a really exciting first year potentially for Lane Kiffin. What most interests me, Paul, is Sam Leavitt. And coaches have told me, listen, he was great during the playoff run for Arizona State, but has struggled with injuries at times, has struggled with accuracy. I want to see that completion percentage a lot closer to 67, 68% rather than 61%. If that's the case, LSU is going to be a really tough team to beat. They're going to win some of those highlighted games on the schedule you just showed.
Great stuff. Adam Rittenberg, you can one more thing, Adam. You got sleepers coming out. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so I've been surveying coaches around the country, guys that are under the radar who maybe you know about if you're a fan of that team, but around the country and around the conference, you may not have heard of them. Some of them are transfers, some of them are returning starters, some of them are first-year guys. Cassius Howell was someone that Mike Elko mentioned to me going into last year, and look at how he turned out for Texas A&M. So but we'll be well represented SEC, but also Big Ten, Big 12, and ACC.
Great stuff. Adam Rittenberg. You can check it out on ESPN.com. Adam, we'll see you soon. We are heading to the break right now. Plenty of time for you still to get on board. We've been jam-packed with guests for good reason. We'll continue right after this.
You're listening to the Paul Feinbaum Show podcast.
Welcome back. As we continue, Charles is calling next from Louisiana. Hello, Charles.
Hey, Paul. How you doing today?
Fine, thank you.
Look, I know everybody wants to blame LSU over this issue with these kids coming back to school from pros and they're judging Lane Kiffin, but it was the players that chose to file this in court. And they were not notified early enough to make the decision to go back to school on this 5 for 5. So people need to go back and look at this. And I'm going to say this. I know these athletic directors, and I don't think they're doing the right thing, but they're going to wind up in a lot of trouble in court because these judges are going to turn around and say, hey, you're in contempt of my court. You know, you're filing, you're going against what my order is. And it could be just like the Trinidad Chambers from Mississippi thing, where it kept going to court. And this could be tied up in court for a long time. And I think that they need to go back and look at it. It's the players to be blamed, if anything, not the coaches or the university.
Charles, I appreciate your comments. Thank you very, very much. Brian is up next in Tulsa. Hey, Brian.
Hey, Paul. Hey, first of all, I disagree with that caller. If that young man signed a pro contract, that means he forgoes his entire college career. So, no, he should not be playing. And no, the court should not be involved because as long as he has his name on a contract, he is an ineligible player to play in college. And, Paul, I called about because this morning I heard yesterday's show, and I agree with Trey. This whole thing with this player and the Charles Bediako thing, it's just disgusting. It's just, and to me, Paul, I don't know what took so long for Greg Sankey and the SEC to do this. I mean, it's so bad that the Big Ten embarrassed this conference by coming up with that rule before the SEC did. And I feel like the SEC should have done this during spring meetings or even during media days. Paul, what do you think about this?
Hey, thanks for the call, Brian. First of all, I don't know how they could have possibly known all this was going to happen at media days. Let's check out Bill, who is up next in Alabama. Hello, Bill.
Hey, Paul, how you doing?
Bill, we're doing great. Thank you.
Good. I just want to call you to see if you remember way back with you in Selma, Alabama.
Yeah, I've been in Selma a few times.
That was the football, the quarterback from the Raiders.
So yeah, you're talking. Yeah, well, it's probably the very first big story I ever did in Alabama. Right after I got here, 1980, Kenny Stabler, legendary Alabama player and Super Bowl MVP, had a football camp at Marion Military Institute. So they invited me and a couple of national people down there.
I remember that.
Yeah, it turned into a bit of a circus.
Had a couple of wild nights, didn't y'all?
Well, I don't think they quite knew what they had. They invited me because I was just they didn't think anybody would dare actually report what they saw. And what I saw was professional football players. He had all his teammates from the Raiders and sitting around a military institute guzzling beer while women were everywhere. I mean, it was, and then I got my favorite part of the story, and I've joked about this with him. He unfortunately passed away, but we went from Marion to Selma, and I was driving. I was driving with you remember Henry Pitts?
Yeah, that was Kenny's agent.
Yeah, so Henry Pitts is this attorney in Selma, Alabama, who was Kenny's agent. And finally, I was sitting in the back seat. We were throwing beer cans out the window, running red lights, going 80 miles an hour. And I don't know why I said this because I'm like 25 years old. I said, Henry, I said, you just ran 3 straight red lights. You better watch out. He said, hell, don't worry about it. I'm the city attorney. I can do anything I want. And I don't know. That sounded like a really good quote to put in a newspaper article. And then we got to the do you remember what happened after that? We went to the Black Elks Club, where Kenny's teammates were all there, and Kenny was supporting. And for those of you who know civil rights history in the South, you'll understand the name I'm about to mention. Joe T. Smitherman was running for re-election, and Joe came over to me because he heard I was a reporter, and he said, and I didn't know who he was. He said, "You know who I?" This is now midnight. He said, "You know who I am?" I said, I think you're the mayor." He said, and I will not quote him directly, but you can find it in the archives. He began to boast about the people that he threw in jail during the civil rights movement, and they were only the biggest names, including Stokely Carmichael, Martin Luther King Jr., Ralph Abernathy, and he used very heady, descriptive language that no longer is fortunately ever uttered. I also put that in the newspaper 2 days later. And the article came out, and they immediately there was a line at Marion Military Institute of about 50 parents coming to pick up their children to take them out of that camp after the article came out. Pitts threatened to sue me, and we tried to explain to Henry that Times versus Sullivan might protect me, and that's a Supreme Court ruling involving a Montgomery, Alabama case that it's not liable if it's true, and everything in the everything in the article was true, and later we later laughed about it. I got to become friends with Kenny after that. It took a while though.
Yeah. Well, I'll let you go. It's good to talk to you.
Well, Bill, thank you. Yeah, the guy running against Smitherman for mayor used my article as his campaign. He put a full-page ad in the Selma Times-Journal. Anyway, it was the first big story I ever had, and should have stopped right then. Let's continue. Swamp Dog is up next.
Hello, Mr. Paul. Thank you for taking my call today, man.
Thank you.
I want to respond to one of your earlier callers today, Frank. He lost his granddaughter. She was shot at a huddle house or something like that. And I just want to say to him, if he's still listening, I don't know if he is or not, but your show allows things like this to be talked about, and I want to talk about it. So what he needs to do is keep his faith. He says he's trying to be a Christian and everything. Keep your faith. Do not everything. And most people can't even comprehend what he's going through right now. The man is hurting. You could tell he was hurting. And what I want to say to him and anybody that's in that kind of situation is, do not give up on your faith, because all these things happen to people, and when you turn your back on your faith, it gets worse. Keep your faith, because everybody in his family is probably looking at him for guidance on this right now, what he's going through. And I don't know, I just want to give that kind of advice to anybody that's having to deal with something like this, because I've known people that's gone through things like this, and they turned their back on God. It's what they did, because they said, how can this happen to me? And when you do that, that's not the right thing to do. You got to, and I know it's easier said than done. I'm not a preacher. I'm not a psychologist, but I've seen it, and I try to deal with it in my own life the way it is. But you can't quit believing. Don't stop believing, like from the song. Don't stop believing. But and that's what I would give to Frank. I hope he's still listening to the show. Apparently, he's a big fan of the show, and that's one of the great things about this show, that people can come on there and talk the way he did, and other people can talk like I'm trying to talk to him right now, and maybe I can reach him. I don't know if I can or not, but anybody else?
Well, I'll tell you what, Swamp Dog, I will see if we can connect you guys, but thank you very much for saying that. We're taking a break right now. More to come. Guests are dropping by, and we'll continue the conversation right after this.
listening to the Paul Feinbaum Show podcast.
Welcome back as we continue here. Let me bring in J.D. Pickell from On3 as so many things are happening. J.D., first of all, it's great to see you. It's been a little while. How are you?
Doing great, Paul. I was hoping to get on here and talk some college football with you, but we got guys playing in NFL preseason games and then coming back to college football and thinking that's okay. So excited we're going to spot the ball here sooner rather than later, Paul.
Yeah, JD, we've talked about all this legal mumbo jumbo, and I don't know if it can happen now or not, but if some of these players that are in question, especially the ones at LSU, are they going to make a difference if they get in a uniform?
I would think so. I would absolutely think so, especially Daquan Wright. Like, if you have 12 personnel out there, Paul, you got him at one position at tight end, you got the other tight end position is Trey'Dez Green. Like, maybe I'm not a fan of having NFL players come back to college football, but that would be absolutely nasty, giving Lane Kiffin another guy that knows his system well with Charlie Weiss Jr. and having him as a check like that would be an absolute problem. Now, to what degree does that make the difference? I don't know if Daquan Wright's the difference for you of making the college football playoff or winning a game in the college football playoff. I do think situationally, week in and week out, there would be some ways to exploit those matchups. But overall, I think we are big picture kind of where we're going to be at a roster level for a lot of these teams.
So he's just not spitting in the wind here. I mean, he's trying to win football games.
Oh, absolutely. And that's the tough part, Paul, is you want to blame the people involved. Like, we all want to blame Lane Kiffin. You want to blame Daquan Wright. But at the same time, I think Kiffin said it best. He's like, these guys are going to play college football if they're allowed to play college football. They're either on my sideline or they're on the other sideline, and I got a game plan against them. So, yeah, they're the quote-unquote bad guys for doing what they're doing. But, I mean, let's call a spade here. The system is wacky. The system is so screwed up. Paul, imagine talking to yourself in 2022 and saying, hey, college football is fighting this fight to make sure NFL players don't come back to college football. And it's going to be a real fight. It's going to be a real battle. Could you imagine how wild of a conversation that would be with your former self? Makes no sense. Makes no sense.
I don't know about you, but I refuse to speak to my former self. I'm done with that guy. I'm a new and improved product here, and that's why I'm trying to go easy on this conversation. So let's get to some players that we know are going to be playing. I'm in Alabama today, and everybody is buzzing about Keelan Russell. Tell us about him and what difference he could make to the Crimson Tide.
I love Keelan Russell. I think Keelan Russell is a special player. I think his skill set is exactly what that place needed with what they were replacing on the offensive line. He's a playmaker. He's a guy that can create when the play breaks down in that sense as well. The ball just jumps out of his hand, according to everyone in Tuscaloosa. Here's my thing with Keelan Russell, Paul. I thought going back to spring ball, he would eventually be the guy for the Crimson Tide. My question is, how much better are you around him? Because Keelan Russell, may be one of the best quarterbacks in the SEC next year, but if we're not able to protect him and give him a chance to go through his progressions, if we don't have a run game to give him ideal looks in the passing game, then we're kind of back where we were a year ago, where you had one of the best quarterbacks, for some people's money, the best quarterback in the SEC, in Ty Simpson, and you were fighting, scratching, and clawing to go win a playoff game against Oklahoma, and then obviously what happened against Indiana happened. But I think the margins are really, really thin there. Keelan Russell's great, but to me the conversation is, what do you have around him to maximize Keelan Russell's potential?
Yeah, I had a coach say to me today, he said he was talking about Ryan Grubb. He said they have to figure out a way to run the football. So we know that's the issue. So explain to the audience what Russell does to help alleviate some of the deficiencies there.
I think there's two thoughts in my mind. The first is what we just spoke to with the vertical passing game. If we can make you uncomfortable as a defensive coordinator with just the idea that we're going to push the football downfield, you got to make what I call resource decisions. You only got 11 players on defense, so you have to choose how many of those guys do I want to key on the passing game. And if Keelan Russell's tearing us up downfield, we probably have to put more numbers back deep, which in theory gives you better blocking numbers to be able to run the football effectively. So that's point number one. Point number two for me is just the idea that if I'm Ryan Grubb, I can call design quarterback runs for Keelan Russell. Not that you couldn't do that for Ty Simpson, but I think you have more explosivity with Keelan Russell doing that. And so just for example here, the read option game is a great way to look at this. If I'm a defensive coordinator, I have to account for someone to attack Keelan Russell in the quarterback run game and also account for the running back in that read option game. So at the very least now, my attention as a defense is divided between those two players over the course of a series. So it's minute, and it's not going to be something that jumps off the page, but I do think when you watch Keelan Russell this year, he has a chance to give a little bit more oxygen to what that run game could be here in Tuscaloosa.
Talking to J.D. Pickell from On3, how does Faison Brandon change Tennessee's outlook?
I think there's two thoughts here. One is, if you're a Tennessee fan, let's go ahead and say you win 7 games this year. Not super exciting, not super flashy, but you view it through the prism of, well, hey, we just played a 5-star true freshman quarterback. Like, what could we be next year with hopefully more built out around him once again in 27? And he's another year more familiar with playing college football. That's the first thought. The second thought is, I think like his ceiling in general based on overall ability, like he was the higher profile guy. He was the guy that if it all clicks for, can do more for you within the context of this offense. It's not knocking George McIntyre. It's just Faison Brandon's 6'4", 225 pounds, has a rocket for an arm, really good mobility, and if he's able to get up to speed with what everything that college football presents from Josh Heupel's system, which clearly he's done by winning the job, and playing at the speed against SEC defenses, like he has a chance to be really, really good. So the thing that I appreciate for Tennessee with him is he doesn't need to be Superman for them to win football games. They have a great offensive line. They have experience. They have great receivers. They have a 1,000-yard back into Sean Bishop. If Faison Brandon can just slowly but surely add more to his plate and can process and digest more within that system, I think he's got a chance to be real good. So this year, I'm not necessarily saying Tennessee goes and makes the playoff, but I do think in the future now, you get more excited and are more okay with how this year goes because that guy's getting his chance to roll right now.
Same question about Aaron Philo at Florida.
Yeah, there's a lot there with Aaron Philo. The first thought I have with him is I get why he won the job because he comes over to Florida. It's his 3rd year in Buster Faulkner's system, who also comes over to Florida from Georgia Tech. They were not a package deal, but Buster Faulkner obviously felt some type of way about Philo to bring him out there to Gainesville. So he's got a good mastery of that. My question is, kind of the same thought we had with Keelan Russell, like how well are we supporting Aaron Philo just when it comes to him having time to throw the football downfield? Because I think the best position group on Florida's roster is that receiver room. I love that Aaron Philo has like this gunslinger presence about himself. He's going to cut it loose and let those guys go impact the game as much as humanly possible. But Aaron Philo isn't the athlete per se that Keelan Russell is. Like Aaron Philo, you're not having to honor quite as much in the run game. You're not quite as worried about him when he breaks contain. Can we give him enough time to operate to maximize his mastery of this offense the way that he's seeing the field and allow him to deliver the football downfield to some of these playmakers? Because if we can't block anybody up front, doesn't matter if we got Aaron Philo, if we got Tom Brady, we got you or me, Paul. Like we don't have a chance to even get this thing started. So I like the overall ability. I like his familiarity with the system. I like what's around him. I worry about that offensive line in the SEC for his first year starting.
JD, I've heard a lot about next year with some of these young players. Let's talk about this year for a second before you get out of here. I mean, I think most people have a reasonably good idea of who's at the very top of the SEC, but help us with that next group, 3 to 8, 3 to 9. There's a lot of mixing and shaking, and who knows what's going to happen in that group.
It's so funny, Paul, because we were in Tampa, and that was one of the questions you got a lot on Radio Row was, okay, it's Texas and Georgia, but, like, who's the dark horse? And I'm like, man, like, there's probably, like, 5 or 6 teams you could tab as a dark horse in the SEC to go be a team that either plays for the conference or, goes and makes the playoff in general. I think the team that I'm circling here, Paul, Oklahoma, I think it's going to be an absolute problem in this conference. I think that they play for the conference championship. I think they go 11-1, and their only loss is to Georgia in the regular season in Athens. I understand that there's a lot of conversation about John Mateer and how he didn't finish the year quite as strong. I mean, John Mateer had 9 fingers last year, Paul, for the better part of the season. Like, I think that's probably a pretty important note to make with what he wasn't after the injury. But before the injury, though, he was wheeling and dealing. Like, he was leading the Heisman Trophy race. So John Mateer, another year in that system at Oklahoma. That defense is going to once again be absolutely filthy. There is no way in the world that run game sucks as bad as it did last year, Paul, if that happens again, I'll come back on the show and eat my shoe. Oklahoma will be really well balanced, I think, overall. And I think they're going to be a team that finds themselves back in the college football playoff and playing for the whole thing in Atlanta against Georgia for a conference championship.
JD, always great to see you. Thanks for the time. We will see you very soon and continue this conversation. JD Pickell. We have a lot more happening here. We talked to Amanda Kristovich earlier. When we come back, we'll let you know what she got out of the governor/athletic director at LSU, Jeff Landry. He has spoken, and you will want to know what he had to say. We're coming right back.
You're listening to the Paul Feinbaum Show podcast.
We were talking to Amanda Kristovich. She asked Landry's office for some perspective, and I don't know if Lane Kiffin wrote this or not, but it feels like it. This is Landry's statement. The whole thing is ridiculous. Don't hate the player, hate the game. I've heard that. How many times have you heard that today? I've been saying for a year that college sports needs to be fixed. The NCAA could have done it. Congress could have done it. Neither did. Now the SEC is creating a legal mess over athletes it told were out of eligibility only to change the rules afterwards. The SEC accepted the court's decisions on Pavia and Chambliss. Why is this different? You can't tell athletes their college careers are over, watch them move on, change the rules later, and then punish them for not predicting the future. That is exactly what Kiffin has been arguing. And depending on where you sit, you can either agree or disagree. Pavia and Chambliss were never on an NFL football field. They did play a lot of college football. That is the difference, Governor. I bring this up, and I'll keep saying this because it's true. Jeff Landry is the person to watch in all of this. He not only has control of the state, but he has control of the university. He's the de facto head of LSU. Wayne Roos, the new president, owes his job to Landry. Will Wade owes his job. Landry wanted to hire Will Wade a year ago, and Scott Woodward wouldn't do it. And at the first opportunity, he fired Woodward, and that's how the whole thing happened with Brian Kelly. So don't take your eyes off Landry. He is a smart politician. He knows the people of that state. And it's interesting that he's coming right after the SEC because he controls that operation down there. And if and he's got an attorney general, and if he brings the attorney general into the fight, we've got some fireworks ahead. I don't know what he's going to do. I don't know what he can do, but we know what the SEC has said. We've seen statements from the SEC so far. That's all we've seen. We haven't seen a single president quoted. We haven't seen a commissioner quoted other than in a carefully prepared statement that we all know has been vetted by a team of high-priced attorneys. Let's get back to the calls here, and George is up next.
Paul, my Pelican State brother, how are you doing?
We're doing great.
Look, man, we got some politics going on down here in Louisiana. I don't know what to do, but I can tell you this. I was a fan of Governor Landry. In fact, I voted for him. But when he pulled that crap last year, bringing in that fake-ass truck stop Tiger to Tiger Stadium to pose as the LSU Tiger. Hey, you know what? He lost so many. He had a pretty good base of LSU fans that were supporting him. That hurt him more than anybody could understand. You live in Louisiana. You live there. You understand how important LSU football and the tradition of LSU football is to everybody in the state. Well, he really, I mean, he's had a lot of back. He tried to do stuff. He's try to cut taxes more and all that stuff. But he really understands enough, and he's smart. He really understands enough that he messed up there.
Well, I would listen. I remember the incident, George. It's probably a big deal, but bringing Lane Kiffin in might be a little more important. But I'll defer to you. Hey, thank you for the call, George. Eddie is in Georgia, and you are on the air.
Yes, sir, Brother Paul. Let's go back 60 years. What if my best quarterback would have been paid $300,000 a year, would he have gone pro? I'm talking about my Joe Namath.
Yeah, I think, Joe, I don't know. Joe was doing so well at Alabama back then. He might have stuck around another year if he could.
That's what I'm saying. Because he didn't get but $440,000.
Yeah, he got. I think he got $400 to sign with the Jets. Now again, 1965, $400 was a lot of bread.
Like it is now.
Yeah, I'm not saying it isn't a lot of money now. It's more than most of us will ever see. But it would be. I mean, first of all, Joe never had to pay for anything at Alabama. He never had to. Coach Bryan took care of Joe.
And his best friend was from Wayne County.
You're right. Ray
Ogden.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, listen, Joe. I mean, everyone should have 4 years in college like Joe had in Tuscaloosa. Hey, thanks. We'll talk about Joe some. I was anyway. I'm going to spare you the story on Joe. We'll get to that later. G is up next in Atlanta.
Hey, Paul. Thanks for taking my call, man. I just want to get my little story about Dolly Parton, Paul. I actually saw her in concert. I don't know if you forgot about the old Omni Coliseum in Atlanta, Georgia.
Absolutely, we've all been there.
And my first job was an usher, and I was there in 1985 with her and Lee Greenwood, and Kenny Rogers and everything. And
wow,
and
what
Paul,
a show!
I got the idea how Woodstock was, because when those lights went out, oh my God, my mom was telling me, "You been smoking marijuana?" When I got home, boss.
That's great.
What
a great story. I can't believe a lot of people like me today are thinking, how did I ever miss not seeing Dolly in person? Gee, thanks for sharing the story. We head to the break. 1 hour to go. We're all calls. The final 60 minutes. We have been loaded with guests. No more news, we hope. It's all yours.
You're listening to the Paul Feinbaum Show podcast.